Hello and welcome. This is webinar number 15 that we're doing today, and today we're talking about building resilience in challenging times, and my word, aren't they challenging. So this week Boris has let us go out without masks, and there's talk of bubbles finishing in schools and all sorts. So it is very, very challenging for people in all different walks of life with all different family circumstances. So my good friend Jennifer here is going to be telling us a little bit about that. And what would you say the highlights of today's event, Jennifer?
Oh, there's so many to cover, Alison, but I think it's the top tips. So today it's going to be really practical and give people some real takeaways that they can actually go away and implement after today's session.
Fantastic. And your job normally, how would you describe yourself, Jennifer?
Oh, so specialist in workplace mental health and wellbeing. In particular, I specialise in mental health first aid, but I do a lot of work helping organisations to create and implement their overall wellbeing strategies.
Oh my word, you are polished. Well, we look forward to carrying on to do the rest of the webinar. Thanks, and we'll see you soon. Well, hello and welcome everybody. My name is ALYSON PELLOWE from PVHR. We are delighted to have you here today on one of our final webinars of this quarter. We're doing building resilience in challenging times, and my word, is it not a challenging time. I've got my gorgeous Jennifer with us, Jennifer Rawlinson, who can introduce herself and tell you how amazing she is and some of the work she does in mental health. I think resilience is so important for all of us all the time. You know, this week Boris has allowed us to go out, mask free. It's Freedom Monday or whatever they called it. So along with some fabulous weather in the UK, we're celebrating that. So if you could take the next slide for me, Jen, that would be fantastic. And so I wanted to just highlight at the beginning of the session, we have had brilliant webinars so far. They've been really well received, and so much so that actually we are now inviting people who are senior in the HR learning. And if you're very, very important, we'd love to hear from you from the wellbeing world too, because we want to just get a collaboration, much smaller group of people to join our VIP club. No costs or anything. It's just to have more intimate discussion about some of the topics that we've had, hybrid working, future HR, and just bring that into a smaller group level. So if you'd be interested in that, please pop me a note on the chat, or please send me a message afterwards. Okay, next slide. And what we're going to be doing today, I'm going to hand over, I think there's another slide which is about feedback, and we'll be sending you an email. We do send you a set of slides afterwards, and we send you a link and an email to slides, a handout, and everything. So I'm going to hand over to Jennifer, who'll tell you a little bit about herself and the session that we're going to run today.
Fabulous. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. Really looking forward to this morning's webinar. My name is Jennifer Rawlinson. I'm a specialist in workplace mental health and wellbeing training. In particular, I specialise in mental health first aid, but I do spend a lot of time working with organisations in terms of the creation of the wellbeing strategy, the implementation and the follow-up and the review. So however much help or little help a company needs, I can be there to support them in that. And I absolutely love working alongside ALYSON at People Vision, and again, supporting on the training aspects of the work that ALYSON and the team do here at People Vision. So as ALYSON has said, we absolutely would love your feedback. So all the details will be sent out in an email. So please do complete those feedback forms. That would be wonderful. It just helps us shape future sessions and things like that as well. So what are we going to be covering today? So as I'm kind of getting into what we are going to be covering today, it'd be really good actually if you could just pop in the chat what resilience means to you. So just have a little think about that, and if you can just pop in there anything that comes to mind when we say resilience, and we'll have a little look at those in a moment. So what will we be covering today? So we're going to be looking at what resilience is and how it can benefit you. Identify what is within your control and maximise what you can do with that. Adapt and respond to change in a positive and productive way, and recover from setbacks and rise to meet future challenges. And today's session is designed to be really practical. We're going to give you some tools, some tips and things to take away, but it's also interactive as well. So really encouraging you to get involved. We're going to be having some group discussions and things like that. It's not just going to be me presenting slides to you for the next 45 minutes, you're probably relieved to know. So do get involved as much as you can do, because we'd love to hear your views and opinions as well as we're going through. Alison, is there anything come through on the chat in terms of the definition of resilience?
Oh, I tell you what, they're a chatty crowd today. I think asking them about the weather has put them in a very good mood. So we've got, although I must say Fiona in Australia said that the Gold Coast is freezing, we don't have any sympathy at all. So anyway, it's about the ability to bounce back quickly. Bounce back is the second word. Being able to adapt. Valerie says, hi Valerie, by the way. The ability to adapt, the ability to cope in challenging times, mental fortitude. Yeah, that's an interesting, maybe, I'm not sure, fortitude, that's an interesting word. Could be good to expand on that. Being able to, Louise West. Well, I haven't seen you for a long time, Louise West. How divine to have you on our call today. Being able to cope under pressure. Absolutely. And mental agility, says Joe. So there's lots of good stuff coming through there, Jen.
Brilliant, brilliant. You know, I couldn't have worded it better myself. Absolutely wonderful feedback there in terms of that. So absolutely, you know, it's how well we're able to bounce back. And you know what, we've got to develop these skills. They're not just things that we just know. So you know, that's what we're aiming to do today, is to give you some real top tips, but also things to take away so that we're able to do that. So in terms of the definition that we've got here, and you know what, I will admit that yours are far, far better definitions, but we've got resilience to be happy, successful, again, after something difficult or bad has happened. And you know what a significant week for us to be running a webinar on resilience. I don't think, Alison, you could have planned it better if you tried.
No.
You know, and some of the things that Alison's already talked about, you know, we can be mask free now if we choose. We've got that prospect of returning to work. What are everybody's feelings of Freedom Day as well? You know, that's another term that's been bandied about quite a bit over the last week. And how are you all feeling at the moment as well? Alison, how do you feel at the moment in these changing times?
Yeah, I think, you know, part of me is I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I've had my vaccine. I'm feeling quite positive about that.
Yeah.
And but as an example, one of our team went this week to Silverstone. I mean, and there was hundreds of thousands of people there. And of course, he's come back. He's 22, but he's had his jabs because he's got other health issues. He's come back. He shared a car with a guy who tested positive. You know, so it's sort of the yin and the yang. It's great to be free. You know, I saw the videos of all the guys going to nightclubs, and I thought, well, you know what? Good for them, but do I really want my 16-year-old girl daughter going to Reading Festival? And there's a number of reasons that I wanted to go to Reading Festival, but COVID spread is just one of them. So I think it just is that sort of, you feel great. It's great. I went camping this weekend with, you know, there was supposed to be 28 of us. Of course, there were some people who then had to isolate due to COVID, because it's like, that's the other thing I found, you know, you just like get excited about an opportunity and something that's coming up, whether it be going back to work or going back to school or whatever it is, and then a social thing, and then that is taken away. And as I say, I have a 16-year-old daughter, and you know, I'm 52, I think 52. It's okay for me, but I think dealing with the younger people, that's really tough for them. There you go. You asked, I tell you.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And you know what, Alison, I love your honesty there as well. And you know, I think it just highlights how every single one of us, we're all in very different places with this in terms of our views about not just in general, but particular situations, what we're happy to do, what we're not happy to do. And, you know, it's all about respecting that we are all different, and, you know, we shouldn't be judging people for that. And it is going to take time, you know, going forwards. I also wanted to share as well, you know, we've looked at different definitions of resilience, but I pulled a Brené Brown quote, and I absolutely love Brené Brown, but what she says about resilience is joy collected over time fuels resilience. ensuring we'll have reservoirs of emotional strength when hard things do happen. And again, I thought that was another really lovely way of summarising that. So again, thank you for your insight, Alison, there as well. So what will we be specifically covering today? So we're going to centre the webinar around what we call the 6 domains of resilience. So I'm going to walk you through each of these 6 aspects of resilience, and I'm going to talk to you around how we can implement them in an easy and practical way. So the first one of these is vision. So this is about our sense of purpose. It's about having goals in both life and in work. So it's not just about work-focused goals, but our life goals as well. And these are really important because what it does is it gives us a sense of purpose. And when we've got goals in place and something to aim for, it gives us a reason to persist as well. So when times are tough, when things are hard, it's something that helps us to keep going. And what I'd really consider you doing is just taking a look at the things that you do want to achieve in life or work, and set goals, but have some shorter term goals as well as longer term goals as well. So perhaps looking at what you want to achieve in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, in the next year, and then perhaps looking beyond that, in the next 3 years, what it is that you're wanting to achieve.
I think you make a really good point there, Jen, because I think that's probably what I was trying to allude to, is that it's impossible to try and plan so much. So I think it's important that you say, have a shorter term view on things, which is more achievable. So at the moment, if you're thinking, I don't know what that might be, a longer term vision, but it just feels so impossible to get that. Do you know what I mean? And to stick to things because things are changing so much. That's how I feel.
Absolutely. I mean, even looking at holidays as an example of that. You've got a holiday booked in 3 months, but is it going to happen?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? Are we going to go amber? Are we going to go red? What's going to happen with that traffic light system and things? So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Those shorter term things can be really difficult, particularly if it's something like a holiday. I'll share a longer term goal of mine, actually. I know you said there, Alison, what is longer term? For me, one of my longer term goals it's a 3-year goal. And that's to take my girls to Disneyland. That's what I want to achieve in the next 3 years.
Fantastic.
And 3 years, I've got obviously to have the time to save up for that as well, because it's not cheap, but it gives you those milestones then around what it is that you need to focus on. And it really does work because it keeps you focused when things are tough. And it's that reminder of what you're doing these things for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If anybody else wants to share their goals in the chat, again, that'd be wonderful, because, and whether that's personal or work, it's up to you.
Yeah.
I find that hearing other people's goals can really help if you're not quite sure where to start with this. And just on the goals piece as well, what I would say is, the first aspect of resilience is vision. Have a vision. Actually visualize yourself achieving that goal. So really think about, when you've achieved that goal. So for me, when I'm in Disneyland in 3 years' time, how am I going to feel? And what are the people around me doing? What are the people around me saying? And what does that feel like? Because actually just thinking about achieving that goal, it really does evoke some real positive emotions inside you. So I definitely recommend not just having the goal, but actually putting yourself in that place when you've achieved that goal as well.
That's a bit of visualization. And I know to many of you wouldn't consider me to be a marathon runner, but a long time, when I was 12 years ago, I did actually plan to do the London Marathon. As it happened, the ash cloud then meant that I couldn't, because I was in Disney. We're fun enough with my family, and we were caught over in Florida. But what the point I'm trying to make is that it was about visualization. And when I was running, you think about what is that target and what it'd be like to run through at the end. And I suppose maybe that's what we've got to think. What's it going to be like getting through this blinking? Thinking hopefully this Christmas that we can all be together if we wanted to, or things like that. But it's just so hard to stay positive.
Yeah. And I think that's where the kind of realistic bit comes in, and focus on the things that we know. I mean, I'd hope in 3 years I would be able to get to Disneyland. So it's kind of looking at the things that we think are going to be realistic, and it stops that doubt overshadowing it then that, but is it really going to happen? Yeah. Brilliant. Have we got anything come through in the chat chat, Alison.
Yeah, fabulous one. Creating a bee-friendly garden. John, I'm not sure if you're listening to Radio 2 at the moment, but there's lots about creating gardens for bees. Christine says she'd like to find a job. I put that on there, Christine. What sort of job? You never know. Maybe we can help you if there is a job, because we're in the HR world. I don't know. You never know. I'm happy to try and help. Paul is making that very big step of getting married a month today. And we have people from all over the country, plus my sister from the US coming. We're also on honeymoon, our property in Turkey to visit. And the stress is going on around there. It's really affected. Yeah, it's definitely affected. I mean, it's just like, oh. And then Debbie says she'd like to join in more local activities in my village. So there's some really, and that's lovely, because that's not like I've got to do it tomorrow. It's like just some nice wide-ranging aspirations.
Amazing. Love those. Thank you everybody for sharing. So that's a little bit about vision, the first aspect. So moving on now to the second attribute, which is composure.
Oh, now this is something I lack a bit of.
Oops. So composure, yeah. So our well-being can really deteriorate when we experience setbacks. So what can happen then is our views can become skewed. Negative thought patterns can start to take over as well. And one of the tools that we will be sharing with you is this thought record. So it absolutely links into the aspect of composure, about composing ourselves. And this thought record is a brilliant way to help us recognise that thoughts are just that. It is just a thought. So we don't have to engage with those thoughts. It's not fact. We can choose whether or not we engage. But actually, when our well-being takes a dip, sometimes we can get carried away on that train of thought. So the first thing is actually recognising those thoughts when they're happening to us. And what this record sheet does is it allows you to record it, so you're recognising it in the first instance. And it just working through each of those steps there. So one of them is about looking at supporting evidence for this thought. You know, what proof have you got that this is factual? And then you've got the opposing evidence of that as well. So it's almost challenging that, but what evidence have you actually got on the other side of that opposes that thought? I really like the realistic alternative piece as well, because this isn't about just changing negative thoughts into a positive. It's about bringing a more balanced view to our thoughts as well. So it's looking at, what is, more realistic or a different way of thinking about this. And a real top tip that I can give you on this realistic alternative. So it could be, it's the power of adding yet to a statement. So thinking about, if you're saying, oh, well, I can't do that, add yet to it. Well, I can't do that yet. How powerful that really can be. So that's one of the ways that you can look at doing that. And then what you've got there is that outcome. So you can have a look at how effective it is. And purely just taking that time to managing those thoughts can be incredibly helpful. So you'll all get a copy of this after the webinar today. But there are other ways as well that you can compose yourself. A really simple one is simply breathing. And, there's loads of different breathing techniques out there. Some of you might be really familiar with these, and you might have proven go-to breathing techniques that you already use. A really, really simple one is box breathing. And this simply is breathing in for the count of 4, then hold for the count of 4, then breathe out for the count of 4, then hold for the count of 4, and then breathe in for the count of 4. And you can see where it's going. It's simply just counting 4 on your breaths in, hold, breath out, hold. And what that really does is it really works to slow down your breathing, because actually when we're getting stressed and anxious and worked up, our breathing is the first thing that starts to go. So it can help us to regain that sense of calm and see things a little bit more objectively. An alternative to that as well can be just simply walking away, literally. So get up and walk away. And if you can, even better if you can get outside to do that, because being outside in nature is proven to lower those stress and anxiety levels that you're experiencing. And then once you've had that time just to walk away, not thinking about it, then come back to it, that can really help in terms of regaining that composure. And again, it helps us to see things a little bit more clearly, with a little bit more clarity. The third attribute to resilience is reasoning. And this is all about finding solutions, using the resources that we actually have. And it's about being realistic as well. So in many respects, what we're doing is we're taking control and we're looking at the things that are controllable, that are within our circle of influence. And I know it's easy to say, well, if it's outside of your circle of influence, let's not worry about it. But that's easier said than done. So when I talk about circles of influence, when it's within our control, that's where we should put most of our focus. Okay. And when we're thinking about reasoning, anticipation and planning for different outcomes is absolutely vital. And more than ever before, this particular aspect of resilience is so relevant in today's changing times. And actually, it's not enough just to have a plan A. We need a plan B, or, in some circumstances, we need a plan C as well. So I guess, the example that you've just shared, ALYSON, about the person going, where did they go to when they were with someone who'd contracted COVID?
Silverstone,
yeah. So, as we're allowed to go to these events and we don't have to wear masks anymore and these restrictions have been eased, that actually it's to be expected that more people will test positive. So we need to think about plan B and plan C if that's going to happen, rather than planning as if it's not. So it's really important, around that. And again, it'd be good actually to find out, do any of you have any examples around how you've been able to effectively plan and kind of use alternatives, plan A and plan B and plan C where needed, whether that be in a workplace scenario or personal? Again, feel free to drop it in the chat.
I wonder if people who've had bigger life moves, changes, for example, if you're children from the military, I wonder if you cope better because constantly things are changing, moving, resilience. Apologies, I was thinking of something else. What was the question we were asking them, Jennifer?
So it was thinking about, where you've had a plan A, a plan B and a plan C. So it's really helped in those situations where things perhaps haven't gone to plan. I think we've got one popped up in the chat there from Louise. From
the lovely Louise. All work staff set up for remote access in case they need to isolate or contract COVID. Yeah. So that's their plan B. And of course, people went to, work 1 week on, 1 week off, or 14 days on, 14 days off. There was all sorts of combinations, and we never thought that this would still be here at the moment. So any other contingency, those risk managers amongst us, if anyone else can think of anything else. If not, we can go to the next slide.
Okay, perfect.
Finding somewhere new to live, Alicia says.
Lovely, thank you. So I think the key message is expect these things to happen, because inevitably they will do. So let's have alternatives and as you say, ALYSON, contingency around these things. So we know what our go-to is, and it's not going to kind of set us back in terms of that. So the fourth of the 6 attributes to resilience is health. So this is looking at our exercise, it's looking at our nutrition and hydration, and it's looking at our sleep as well. And keeping active is an amazing stress reliever. And actually, if we can stay active, not easier said than done when it's as hot as it has been, but if we can lower those stress levels, it actually makes the second point, the point about composure, easier to achieve, because we're relieving that stress on an ongoing basis. So it reduces the likelihood of us getting worked up to the point where we do need to regain that composure. So you can start to see how these different attributes all now start to link together. The challenge is when we're feeling overwhelmed and stressed and anxious and depressed, that actually doing things like exercise can seem more difficult, more challenging. It can feel more difficult to eat healthy, when we're not feeling great. And as a result of the way that we're feeling, actually our sleep can then be impacted as a result. So it can be really difficult actually to keep those three things going. We are going through tough times. And it'd be good again to hear anyone's top tips around how do you keep your exercise regime, how do you eat well, and how do you work on your sleep on an ongoing basis to build that resilience. Any top tips that anyone can share? And again, drop them in the chat, and what I'll be doing whilst you're thinking of those, I'll share one of mine that has worked incredibly well. And for me, it's about devices. So if I come off my phone at least an hour before bed, I definitely sleep so much better. And the opposite of that, if I'm lying in bed scrolling through my phone, I start to have all of these thoughts of different things that I can do. My mind's really busy. And then I start making lists of things because I don't want to forget it. And before I know it, hours can pass. And clearly then the next day I'm incredibly tired as well, which does not help the overall situation. Too tired to exercise, too tired to bother cooking right. So putting my phone, my laptop away an hour before bed, is one that I use that works really, really well. But any others that we've got there?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I quite like team sport. So something where I go and I have to commit to something, so I was doing other more athletic boot campy things for a while, and I was doing quite well at that, and I'm falling off the wagon with that. But I have kept up my netball, because that's quite fun. It's a group of girls every Thursday night, and I'm dying because I can't keep up with them all, but at least I'm still going, and that gives me a bit of a positive mental attitude. I'm still part of the team, still part of the WhatsApp group, still able to do it. But other people have said batch cooking. So as an example, healthy food is in the freezer when I'm too tired to cook. That's great. Daily steps target on the phone, says John. And he's just had, I hope he doesn't mind, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, he's just had his hip replaced. Yes. So well done, John. I found bird watching and butterfly spotting has helped me now, says Debbie Moore. So I now have a purpose when I go for a walk. That's a great thing, because I'm a devil for going on a walk and taking my blooming phone with me and then like thinking of work or making a work call or doing something else, which is sort of counterproductive. I think that's great, Debbie. Work that could be applied to every environment. In fact, one of our clients that we were working with, we were suggesting walking tours. They're in London. They're trying to get people back into the workplace. So we suggested, why don't you go for a walking tour and look at architecture? They're in the centre of London, right by Liverpool Street. It's so cool around there. They could just say, they could go on a not treasure hunt, but like building spotting around there. Nicholas says, I motivate myself by a running club and gym classes. That's great. When you sign up, you have to go. Yeah, we always like a financial disbenefit, if that's the right word. Prioritizing self-care, says Sabrina. And it is, you do have to really think about it. So healthy eating, exercise, practice gratitude and self-compassion. You are definitely in the right job, Sabrina. Joe, yeah, I've heard about Joe's journaling. Joe journals every morning. So she just spews out her thoughts, so that sort of clears the mind, I believe. And in fact, Joe and I did a live on devices as well, and I can't remember what this caption for it was. Basically, try and be device free for as much time as you can. So you could look that up on our YouTube. And also, I say Debbie Moore, she's been, not only is she butterfly hunting, she's doing online belly dancing, would you believe it? And she's got a Headspace app. So Debbie, I tell you what, you better run the next session. Back to you, Jennifer.
Fabulous, amazing. And I love the variety that we've got there as well. So definitely some food for thought, different ideas. I've definitely taken a few ideas away from that, particularly like the accountability piece as well, particularly when it comes to my exercise. So that's a great one. So thank you for sharing on that. So moving on to the fifth aspect, which is tenacity. This is all about our willingness to persist. And actually, if we have those goals and that vision around those goals set in the first place, it gives us that purpose, and it means that we're more likely to stick with it when things are tough. So those goals at the beginning that we talked about are so important, having that vision, because it can really help in terms of our tenacity. And again, another question, let's have a think about, when we're struggling, our self-belief can deteriorate as well. And we can start to experience self-doubt, and we can have those limiting self-beliefs. They're the types of things that can get in the way of us achieving those goals as well. And actually then working to make us feel worse as a result of that. Alison, I wondered, have you ever experienced those things? And have you got any tips around how people can overcome that when they're experiencing that self-doubt or limiting self-beliefs?
Geez, I think, listen, I've got a fairly big ego. And I think anyone who's on the call that knows me knows that. And I suppose I do have a lot of self-belief, but I think I'm constantly pushing and trying to do. Clearly, I'm an extrovert, so what comes into my mind comes out of my mouth. And I also find that I'm generally not put off if something, like I'm learning golf at the moment. So, I know that that's going to be really personally challenging, not because of the driving bit of it, but because of the putting, because I know that's really going to frustrate me, but, I realize that I think it's something that I can just chip away at, pardon the pun, but just carry on. And I think actually that's going to be really good for my mindfulness. And I had a really crappy day last Wednesday. I went to the golf course and oh my God, I felt so much better by the time I'd done it. And I mean, I'm sounding like an old lady, I get that, but actually it's so good. And I find the same, but we can't do it at the moment, about skiing. You're just going to get yourself in there. A lot of people will get to the edge of it, it's a black run, I can't do it. You know what? If you get yourself on your skis and just get on with it. Just JFDI. That's my approach.
Love it, Alison. Thank you.
I don't know why that video is not working instantly. That's a bit annoying because they worked on our test run.
It did. I've got no idea.
Oh, well, anyway, next slide.
We'll just build our resilience around that.
Exactly.
There we go. And I guess some other things as well that you could consider. It could be things like self-help books around mindset. They can be helpful. There's some amazing books out there. And also considering a coach. I've used a coach in the past to help with particular things like self-doubt, and having a coach there to support and work you through those things can be really, really beneficial. But actually, you don't have to pay for a professional coach, but thinking around your support network as well, and opening up and chatting to people. Your support network can be really, really helpful and really great in terms of helping you to overcome those self-doubt barriers, when it comes to achieving our goals. This then leads us really nicely into the sixth aspect, which is collaboration. And again, actually, I think this would be a really great discussion for us to have in a moment around how do we collaborate from a workplace perspective when we're working remotely. Also, as well, there's many workplaces that are working on a hybrid model. So some people in work, some people at home. So teams are quite split at the minute as well. And actually that in some respects can be more difficult because you've got some of the team together, but then other members of the team remote as well. And again, thinking of the scenario, this is where it becomes more prevalent is, with the restrictions lifting, there's that higher chance of people having to isolate. So I think the collaboration focus actually, let's have a discussion about this, because I think this could be really beneficial. So again, just have a think around how can we create that collaboration when we've got people all over the place and we're not necessarily all together. So again, drop your ideas in the chat, whether it's something that you've used personally, something that you've seen or heard, drop them in there and we'll feed those back in a moment.
Yeah, I think it would be great to have some actual tips. I know people are doing, remote tea, coffee things, or I know the quiz days are wearing a little bit thin now. But it's interesting. I was talking to somebody who's going back into a formal working place, and they're talking about, and I think this is really important from a collaborative perspective. So those of you who are working in an office where commercial property situation is changing, people aren't having those same desk setups, they're moving more to hot desking, and then they've got to book, if they want to go to work, they have to book a week in advance the seat they want. And my friend was saying, it's just really frustrating because I want to work with my team, and I might, the project might be going wonky today, which means tomorrow I need to meet with my team. And he'd say, guys and girls, can we all meet? Is there any chance everyone could come in for a meeting tomorrow? And things aren't as nimble as they need. So they need an app, for an example, to choose, because their team, then, they're going to be, one's on the 3rd floor, one's on the 4th floor, one's on the 6th floor. So even though they've all got a hot desk, it's not, the collaboration challenge is really there. So, and I think people using these tools, the virtual tools are good, but also I think, so Christine says the team huddle, and then Elisa says we have group chats on WhatsApp, regular remote meetings helps everyone keep in contact and reduces isolation. And I think that's really true. We ran another session around, introverts and extroverts, and all the extroverts can't wait to get back to the office, and not all, but many of the introverts are thinking, no, thank you. I quite like having, 4 days at home. And Valerie, thank you. Valerie is one of our strategic partners, and they deal with MS Teams. They do a lot of technical support in IT terms. So that she can recommend, I'm sure. We used Asana, there's Slack, there's loads of other tech that we can use that can help, and makes it quite fun. And you can put GIFs on, you can put photos, you can put blah, 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 blah. So just to lighten the mood and keep that collaboration up. So again, guys, if there's any more ideas on ways that you can collaborate at this time, it would be, and somebody says, that helps when people are struggling, because if you feel confident enough to make a joke or, or to keep that communication going, you're more likely to tell your buddy, your work colleague, yeah, I'm telling you what, I'm struggling even with myself at the moment, or with this project, or it's not going right, and just gives you that confidence to do that. So yeah, I think there's some really good points in that. So back to you, Jennifer.
Lovely. And I think as well that it's not just about being productive, not doing it from a productive side of things, but you mentioned there GIFs and pictures and things like that's all about connecting with people and the personalities. And you think about, we've not got that office banter the same, and actually that's a big part, that's a huge element that's missing. And as humans, we need to connect with other humans. So it's thinking of things like that how do we get the human aspect to it, not just the productive side of things.
I'm just thinking like the walking tours and the butterfly tours that Deborah mentioned earlier. I'm just thinking you could literally FaceTime or WhatsApp or whatever it is, or MS Teams call with your people, and you could say, right, we're all remote, hoping that everyone's mobile enough to walk, because I know they're not all, but why don't you just show us, even if it's your outside space there, can you go for a walk? Why don't we at 11 o'clock all join up and we'll all go for a walk together? It might be an absolute technological disaster, I know that, but that's half of it. That's half the fun. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't work out. The point is you did something that was a bit different.
Yeah. Or even working outside, and then you've not got the same restrictions because you're in that open space.
Yeah, your screen's a nightmare then, Jennifer.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And the Wi-Fi then plays up.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm being negative. Sorry, it's not my usual way.
It could be good for some discussions and things like that.
So we got 5 more minutes left. So I think we're at the rounding up to recap, aren't we? Amazing, Jennifer.
We absolutely are. Couldn't have timed it more perfectly. So to recap some of the things that we've covered on today's webinar. So we've talked about breathing, box breathing in particular, but there are other types of breathing. We've got the thought record tool as well that we will be sharing with you to help bring that more balanced view to your thoughts and help with your composure. We've had a little look at physical health and the different things that we can do to still make that happen and make time for that when times are tough, because it does become more challenging. So we've absolutely acknowledged that, and had shared some brilliant ways that we can still collaborate with each other as well, when people are placed all over the place. And we've got on there as well gratitude, because gratitude can be incredibly powerful. It can help to boost our mood. It can help to counteract some of those negative thoughts patterns that we're experiencing, and it can really help us to feel more balanced and in control as well. And as a result of that, what we've also shared with you are some other helpful resources. So there's some meditations on there. I know that some of you are already using some of these apps, Headspace, Calm, just to name a couple on there. There's also a link to the Hub of Hope as well, and that is a directory of all the services in your local area. So you literally go onto the Hub of Hope, pop your postcode in, and it comes up with mental health related services in your area. So again, if you are struggling, don't put off seeking that help, because actually the sooner you get that help, the better. So really take a look at that, and get help, even if it's just a wobble. It's not a weakness seeking help, but actually it really does show that, that you're a tower of strength by being able to do that. And the final aspect as well is look at what support you've got available in work. Do you have an employee assistance program? Do you have access to counselling? Are there other resources, podcasts, things to help you maintain a healthy life? Because there's so much information out there. And if you're unsure, take a look at the things and what you've got available through your workplace, because often there's so many things there, but people either don't know them, they don't know how to access them. So definitely take a look and see what you have got from your workplace as well.
Well, do you mind just going back a slide? Because I was just thinking how lovely it would be to go on holiday and to be, maybe doing that sort of thing and sitting and meditating. Is that you and your husband, Jen?
Oh, yes. I wish.
You imagine, the perfect couple. We made our marriage. They're the couple. Like, you see that the few slides we did with the two people who were doing yoga. They started off doing this in their 20s, and they're still doing yoga together. Oh, those sicko couples. Anyway, listen. I think Valerie's got a fabulous comment there right at the end, which says aim to be your best friend, which I think is fantastic. Thanks very much, Valerie. If you could stop sharing the slides, that would be great, Jennifer. Thanks so much. And really now what we really wanted to say is open the floor to any questions, comments, light bulbs, anything. Pop it into the chat, or feel free to, I'm sure if I put the spotlight on Jo Perusa, she's always got something to say. So Jo, come on, what pearls of wisdom can you share with us?
Thanks, Alison, for that, putting the spotlight on. I'm very hot at the moment as well. I've got no fan in this room.
Hot in Manchester, is that possible?
I know, it's in Manchester and it's sunny and it's so hot, it's unbelievable because it's normally raining. That was brilliant. I loved that. There's some brilliant tips there. And the thing that I kind of came away thinking about was how important is, kind of setting boundaries as well for our resilience, because that's something, saying no for me is something that I've learned through lockdown to, feel confident about.
Yeah.
Love that, Jo.
And John Delamy, any light bulbs from you? Anything you'd like to share? You might need to unmute yourself. Never eat shredded wheat.
Right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. No, I think I liked the collaboration bit, because I think it's really important to not just collaborate in a work centre, it's also important to have a really good network, because having people you can talk to and reach out to, that really helps with your resilience. Because I put in the chat, sometimes it's okay not to be okay, but you need to have people who are happy to hear you saying you're not okay and able to listen and kind of help you work through that. So definitely.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. Valerie, any light bulbs from you? Oh.
Unmute myself. That's always a good sign. I think about the thing about the network is it's really difficult because some people do not want to know that you're not doing okay. That you're seen as the one, and you are, ALYSON, as well, seen as the one that, you know, we're strong, we're there, we're all together, we don't have any, you know, negative doofers at any time. So it's kind of like it's managing, you know, it's like a yin yang. Some people are always going to be up, or 98% of the time feel great, and it's managing who you share with. I mean, when we started with the pandemic and the lockdown last year, I wrote or emailed or picked up the phone to lots of people I hadn't spoken to for ages, just to say, well, we spoke.
Yeah, Valerie, your husband helped me considerably with MS Teams, and there was a lot of expletives involved in those discussions.
I remember. Well, if it hasn't got an expletive, honey, in IT, it's not a proper sentence. Let's be honest. Come on. It's the way we are, you know. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Valerie. Brilliant. Okay, so just finally then, winding up, thanks so much, Jennifer. I really appreciate. I mean, I think part of this webinar series is this collaboration. You know, I've had Jennifer, Joe, working, and lots of other people working on these workshops with me. It has given me focus, it's given me purpose, it's given me an opportunity to reach out to new potential customers, you know, and it's been really pretty stressful sometimes, but I am really glad I've done it. So I want to thank everybody who's been on that journey with me, either as an observer and being part of the watching, even the Daniel Sanchez's who don't put their video on. You know, I really appreciate that you're here, and that you're part of it and make us feel listened to, because as an expert we want to be listened to, so that we don't go so mentally mad. So yeah, I think all that really remains for me to say, as I say, thank you so much for Jennifer today. Any final thoughts from you before I close up, Jennifer?
I think, you know, it's within our gift to take control of these things. And I think accepting that, you know, yes, it was Freedom Day on Monday, and yes, we don't have to wear masks, but times are still very uncertain. And, you know, even yesterday, I went into some places you didn't have to wear your mask, other places you did. And just that in itself is a bit unnerving, because you're not quite sure what you're meant to do at the moment either. So give yourselves a break around how you're feeling about things like that as well. And I think it's that acceptance that, you know, just because it was Freedom Day doesn't mean that it's instantly back to normal, but it's still going to take time. We're still on a journey with this.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, listen, thanks ever so much, everyone. We're having a little bit of a break. We're going down to one webinar a month from August, probably to the end of the year, and then we're going to do more live streaming rather than, and we just love the challenge of that, don't we, Joe? Joe's been on a live stream with me. Daniel's given me a thumbs up. I do appreciate that, Daniel. So listen, thanks so much for everyone. Have a fantastic day. Go forth and be resilient.
If you're interested in this kind of content and want more of an intimate and unique experience, well, check out our VIP Club promo. It has all the information that you need for like-minded individuals within the human resources field of expertise. The link is in the description. We hope to see you there.